Hey, 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 the sun let me take a nice little vacation, and so did the Schumann, but there's a little bit of activity and some interesting comets happening. So you can see the Schumann has been relatively quiet until last night when we had a couple of large pulses. I would estimate the big one was probably close to 70 or 80 hertz. And today has been strange. A lot of people have been contacting me and suddenly started to feel crappy. I have certain members in my Patreon or friends of mine that are like the first responders and notice first when there's something strange coming. So here's a close-up of that, but there's a surprise geomagnetic storm or CME on the way. Even though we didn't have any large flares over the last week, we have had some major output on the sun. It's been a little hard for me to get footage because the Solar Disk Observatory is going through its eclipse season where the Earth gets in the way of the transmission during orbit. This happens twice a year. The first time it happened, I thought the sun was disappearing. So this is what it looks like when it gets eclipsed. And when I first started studying all this, every little thing like that happened, like Mercury or Venus on the coronagraph, I got all excited and thought I was, discovering a new continent in space. It really has been relatively quiet up on the sun. You can see there are very few sunspot regions with very few sunspots in them, but we have a big behemoth turning back our direction probably this weekend. So we will be getting more activity. There is said behemoth. It was 3182 last time, and they rename them every time they flip back around. That's how they keep track of how many sunspots they've been monitoring for the 400 years they've been doing that. Not NASA, but, going back to the OG astronomers. We did just have a smaller C flare. It was a C4, but as one of my friends and patrons reminded me, when we get these periods of calm where it's gone down back to a very low background level of activity, and then all of a sudden we get a mid-range C flare, we feel it more, or at least some people feel it more. I do have a theory of something that might help that, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. In the meantime, here's the Comet 96P that flies across the coronagraph, and then in the meantime we also have Comet ZTF, which is the green comet. I will be doing a deep dive of this, the Hoppy prophecy, and other interesting coincidences, facts, and observations about these comets and the timing of them. So you can see that comet flying across the coronagraph and also very large CMEs erupting.